Okay, so the Heat are heading to the finals. What's more impressive, the Heat beating the Bucks and the Celtics en route to a finals, or you not losing faith in Jimmy after they dropped three in a row?
Well, they're both pretty damn impressive, I gotta tell you. And I was shocked by how many people were just adamant, oh, once the Heat lost game 6, they have no shot. Why did they think that? So the argument is, oh, they can't come back from that type of stomach punch. Small history lesson here. So the last team to suffer that type of stomach punch loss, this was actually worse, was of course the 2013 San Antonio Spurs, which they weren't going to go to the finals. They were going to win the finals. And then Ray Allen hit a three to send the game to overtime. The Heat win in overtime, and then we go to Game 7. Now, of course, the Heat did end up winning that game, but it was not because the San Antonio Spurs melted. It was not because they were hungover from the loss. In fact, the two biggest culprits of that loss were a young Kawhi Leonard and Manu Ginobili. They both missed a critical free throw, one each, in the final 45 seconds of that game, which allowed the Ray Allen shot to tie the game. Kawhi and Manu played brilliantly in that Game 7. They only lost that game because LeBron dropped 37 and 12. Conversely, the Miami Heat players who created the opportunity, Chris Bosh with the rebound and Ray Allen with the shot, in that Game 7, the two of them, the team's third and fourth best players, scored a combined 0 points. They were 0 for 9. And the Heat won despite it was a 2-point game with 30 seconds left. So the reason I give you that brief history lesson is the idea that the Heat just weren't going to be able to overcome the emotional devastation of that Game 6 is belied by history. Particularly when you have a great coach in Erik Spoelstra and a great leader in Jimmy Butler. Furthermore, the Celtics have not been you love when I say furthermore. You laugh every time.
I think it's really funny because I feel as if it's not necessary in the sentence.
You know, sometimes I do these opening monologues. It's as if I'm writing an essay and just dictating it. And so I throw in words that you would use to adjoin thoughts or paragraphs within an essay, and that's why maybe I use some of the language I do. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted. Furthermore, the idea that the Celtics were going to have some massive home court advantage, they've been bad at home in the playoffs for 2 years now. And so I just didn't buy it. And I understand folks are caught up on the alleged and seemingly obvious talent disparity between the Heat and the Celtics. But how far do we have to go until we are willing to say the Celtics are not the better team? The only piece of evidence we have that they're the better team is this year's regular season. These teams played each other in the conference finals in 2020. Miami won. They played last year. The Heat were the 1 seed from the regular season. They played each other in the conference finals last year. Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero got hurt. Hero didn't even play this series. Butler, he played all the games, but games 3, 4, and 5, he was a shell of himself. Despite that, had an all-time Game 6, and then the Heat were a shot away from winning Game 7. And then this year, they played in the playoffs 7 times. The Heat annihilated them in Game 3, a de facto elimination game. Game 7, an actual elimination game. Beat them soundly in Games 1 and 2, and came literally within 0.2 seconds of winning Game 6. They were 0.2 seconds away from beating them 5 out of 7 including 2 laughers. The Heat are better. Jimmy, I want to say this as well. If you value winning basketball, if you value playoff basketball, being a 16-game player, you must acknowledge that Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player in the league. Jokic is in there. Giannis is in there. Steph is in there. After that, there is nobody that you can definitively say is better than Butler. He's better than Jason Tatum. I feel he's better than Devin Booker. The last few years in the postseason, he's clearly been better than Kevin Durant.
And better than LeBron.
The last couple years in the postseason, you'd have to say it, LeBron missed the playoffs last year. I thought LeBron was excellent in the postseason this year. But even if you would have LeBron ahead of him, that's only 4 guys. But to me, LeBron, Durant, Jimmy, Luka, are all in that discussion for the 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. You've got to drop down Embiid, who keeps coming up short in the postseason. To me, it is a question of how you view basketball. If right now you feel like Embiid is better than Butler. Butler constantly delivers, constantly gets better, constantly gets the most out of his teammates, never blames other people. Had a great line in the post game when he was asked about role players, and he was like, I don't call them role players, I call them teammates. You feel like he's going to come through. I don't think there's a player in the league I would have been more confident in making all 3 free throws at the end of Game 6 than Jimmy. So, and Caleb Martin is a hell of a story. I understand some people wanted Caleb Martin to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I would have been fine with it. He was better in Game 7. Jimmy was better in the entirety of the series. But we have sometimes in history, go back to Magic's rookie year, you gave him a Finals MVP because of what he did at the end of the series. I think it was Game 6. At the end of the series over Kareem, even though Kareem had been the dominant player in that series. But I think what the confidence Jimmy and Spoelstra instill in that team makes every guy on the Heat the best version of themselves. And now we'll see how they do against the Nuggets, which we'll talk about in a moment. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.